Well, welcome. So what I'm going to do in this demo is import two JPEG files, and then we're going to sketch on top of them to make a Ventus model that we can then use to run Contam. So this is our ground level, and what you will see on the ground level is that I have also added some coordinates here. So the lower left corner is going to be 0, 0. The extent of the model is 250 feet by 130 feet, and we're going to use this central atrium point here at 210 feet, 65 feet as a point of reference when we're importing the files. Okay, I have started Ventus, and we're going to now import that JPEG file. One thing I'm going to do that will help me later on is I'm going to edit the snap grid. I'm going to set it to 5 feet because that will be a natural coordinate system for us. So I'm going to select level 0, and I'm going to go to the model, new background image, and I'm going to select my ground floor. So I click open, and what I see here is a preview of the model. So the first thing I have to do is choose the anchor point. And I'm going to use as the anchor point the center of that X that defines the atrium. And that point, based on the coordinates we used, is at X 210 feet and Y 65 feet. So that takes care of the anchor point. Now it wants me to choose point A, and these are just 2 points, A and B, that will define the dimension of the project. So I'm going to click on point A at the center of that lower left corner, and I'm going to put point B here at the center of this lower right corner, and the distance between those 2 points is 250 feet. So I click OK, and now I have my model is imported. Let's just click reset, and there you can now see my model in this view. Now let's go and we'll start to work on the, let's look at it a little bit more here before we continue. So what you can see here is I have an atrium, I have a wide 16-foot hallway, and then I have some smaller hallways that go to exit doors here. I have some double doors, some single doors. I have 2 elevators, 6 elevators in total, so 2 elevator shafts. And I have a pipe chase, so I want to make sure I get those into the model. And here I have a stairwell and another stairwell down there. So I'm going to want to recognize those. Now, let's go to the top view. And again, I hit reset, and now you can see I have my sketch plane here. And what I'm going to do is I want to kind of make it easy to keep all the edges, all these rooms in a straight line. You could just go ahead and, so what would be a very easy thing to do is to turn off the snap grid and just start to sketch these rooms. And if they align or if they don't align, it really doesn't make any difference. But just for nicety of the model, I'm going to have the edges aligned. So I'm going to use my snap grid for when I'm drawing some of the initial things here. So let's get started. So I'm going to first draw the outer boundary. And again, this is just so that I have all this nice edge here so that when I start to draw the rooms inside here, they will snap to that edge. So let's just go back here. I'm going to click down here, and you can see my grid is nicely aligning because I was careful in how I you know, define the coordinates. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to put the opacity here to 20% so that I can see through it. And now I can see my rooms below. The other significant room that I want to pin down is I want to do this atrium. So I'm going to draw the atrium here and click on that. And again, I'm going to put the opacity of that to 20%, just so I can see through. Okay, now I can start to draw these other rooms here. And my intent is to make sure that the hallway, the atrium, the exit doors, these are all very closely connected. So I want that to be one zone. And then I'm going to lump some of these conference rooms together into one zone because I'm really not worried about flow through the walls of the individual conference rooms, but I want to make sure that I have the right kind of flow paths between this large space that is all connected and the detailed walls of each lump of conference rooms. Well, before we continue, let me make one more change here. What I want to do is I want to turn off my snap grid. Yeah, don't show the snap grid. And then I want to see this is a 16-foot wide hallway, so it doesn't snap to any of the grid points that I had set for 5 feet. So we're just going to do this freehand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to sketch and snap to the other edge. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, what's happening is it's snapping to some of the existing drawing there. There we go. Okay, so now that's a decent representation of that hallway. Okay, now we can go ahead and let's start drawing all the other the rooms here. So I'm going to double click my room tool and I'm just going to start to click and snap. We'll leave that oddball room for later. We'll put this conference room here. Merge these conference rooms into one lump. Again, merge that into one lump. Here's our toilet. Here's our storage space. Again, one lump for those rooms. Okay, so there we've kind of gotten things going here. Now let me go ahead and add these. And we'll do a polygonal tool here for this one. Right click to close it. And let's use the polygonal tool for, well, no, we have to do the elevators here still. So let's do the elevators and the pipe chase. So the elevators. The pipe chase. And now we're ready to use the polygonal tool to do the last two rooms. Right click to close. And right click to close. Okay, so let's just click level. We're going to set the opacity to 20%. Now we can see everything. And we have our basic rooms there. Now what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of color coding. And then, yeah, so let's do that first. So if we zoom in here, we first, well, before we do that, we need to merge the atrium with the hallways. So I have my selection tool selected. I hold down the control key, and I'm just going to start clicking all of the hallway sections that need to be merged into one with the atrium. I then do a right click and I select merge rooms. So now that is one room. Now let's do some color coding. I have my two stairs here. I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to make that, now let's make it a nice green color. Okay, so nice safe green. Let's pick my two elevators. Let's make those red. Let's make the pipe chase a nice bright blue. Let's make my walking space, a nice light blue. Okay, and that's good enough. Just to see what we've done, let's put our opacity back to 100%. So you can see I have at least some color code of what the different spaces mean, and you can of course change that to however you want to do it. Oh, okay, before we continue, I want to do one thing, and that is to set the temperatures for the winter conditions for the stairs. So I'm going to click the stairs, and I'm going to click the pipe run, the elevators, the elevator shaft, the other stairs, and now I'm going to set the temperature for these, and it should be minus 13. So that's our winter condition for those. So that is it. Okay, so now let's focus on doing the flow paths. And what I have already done is I've already created all my different flow elements. So for example, if I select my doors, I can then look at my different flow elements, and they're all what I expect. I have a stairs, an elevator shaft, a pipe. So that's all ready to go. So now let's start to put the flow elements in. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the level. I'm going to set the opacity maybe to 40%. Yeah, let's try 50%. Just because that allows me to see through, but I can also see the boundaries of my rooms. And now I'm going to double click my flow path tool. I'm going to select here the wall. And now I'm ready to do the normal wall leakage rates. So let me just start here, and I'll just start to click and drag. And that is one room, so that actually takes, let me just undo that, Control Z. Let me go back here and do it again. I'll just put it here more towards the middle of the wall just for convenience. Uh, Click here. Okay, so this is a room. This is another room. I'll put one here for the hallway. This is one lumped room here. Another one here for the hallway. So you get the idea. I just keep adding these until I have them defined for all of the boundaries. So I think I have all of the wall leakages finished here. What I can do is I'll use my selection tool, and this kind of helps me look at it. So I can click on my zones, and then I can look at the flow paths, making sure that all the walls of each flow path have the leakage to the adjacent walls. So I can work through the model, and it gives me, you have to be careful, but you can do it. And I see I missed one right there. It's the elevator shaft. But I think in general, I've got that all finished. Now, let's just do a couple doors. So I'll just do the single door first. So I'm going to double click on my flow path tool. I'm going to click door, single closed. And again then, so now you just start to click and show the doors. And you do this through the model. And I am going to say that basically that's it. Um, for the you can see here that the single doors are green. I want the double doors to be a different color. So I've changed them to kind of a purple. And the elevator doors are an orange. And so you can see there's some color coding here that we can do. So I continued, I did the double doors and I did the elevator doors. So you can see now here I've got my elevator doors. That's a single door. Here's my double doors down here. So I think I'm done with the doors, and that then, uh, so, so I've got my basic flow paths for the first level finished. Well, before we leave, I want to make one thing clear. So remember, we did the sketching here with just by sketching by hand to define our zones that are on the interior. So let's look at this one room that is this merged ballroom, and you can see that the total length of the wall should be 120 feet. If I click on my flow path, you can see that my multiplier for this wall is 1,199 feet. Well, if I had 120 feet, it would be 1,200 feet. And so that shows that because the walls are 10 feet high, so 10 times 120 is 1,200. So what that does is that shows that I did not precisely define the length of the room. I sketched it as an approximation. And so I am a little bit off of what the actual value should be. I have two choices. I could click on the multiplier and I could enter my own value. I can certainly do that. Or if I really wanted to be careful, I could have used a finer grid pad, a finer grid spacing, and I could have made sure that each of the corners of my zones was aligned onto the exact grid point. So it just depends on how precise you want to be. A little bit of, 1,199 as compared to 1,200. I really don't think that makes any difference. Okay, well, let's proceed to work on the second level. I did make some changes to the first level, just to be clear. So I changed the color of the double doors to be yellow so you can see a better contrast with the wall uh, leakage rates, leakage paths. And also I added some single doors here at the bottom that I had missed in my original model. So I think we're ready to go now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy some of the zones from the first level up to the second level. I'm not going to copy them all, but I'm going to just do some that will preserve the alignment. I'm not going to copy the flow paths because some of the flow paths I would have to delete, and also the second level floor plan is different. So there's a lot of doors I would have to delete. I think it's better to just draw them again. So holding the control key down, I'm going to select my zones. So those are the zones I'm going to copy. I use my copy tool, copy mode, 10 feet, and copy move. So now if I go to the 3D view, you can see I have another level there. Let's go back to the top view. And what I want to do here now is I want to import, first of all, let's make the top level the active floor. So now we see the active floor. Now here I want to import the floor plan for the second level. So I'm going to add that, new background image, and I have to be careful here. Actually, let me go to where I was. So I'm going to select the typical floor plan, and we do just like we did before. I set the anchor point. I give the coordinates of 210, 65. I then set point A and B, and in this case, it's going to be this lower left corner, and then the lower right. And the distance between those is 115 feet. So if I click OK, everything should be aligned. And yes, you can see. So this image now aligns with that. And you can see the rooms are now different. So I have different doorways here. So that's why I didn't want to copy the, the flow paths from the first floor to the second floor. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the work of making all of my flow paths for the wall leakage and the doors. And then I'm going to show you how we create the leakage from the floor to the room below. But before we do that, let me show you how I'm going to draw. I need to add the atrium and part of this hallway back in. So we'll make that the active tool. We'll draw those. Now I'm going to select them, do a merge, so right click. I'm going to change the opacity to, I think, 40%, what we've been using. And so now you can see I have a nice room there. Let me change the color. I think I used a nice light blue previously for that. And so now we have our basic zone set up. Now I'm going to draw the flow paths. Okay, so I think I've gotten all the flow paths through the walls and all the flow paths of the doors to the different rooms and to the atrium. So I think we're done there. And again, the nice thing about this is you can see through, so you can quickly check. Did you get the doors? Did you get that wall? So it's real easy to make sure that you've actually included that. The last thing I need to do is I need to make the flow paths through the floors. So that is going to be our floor leakage rate. And now I just go in and I click in the room and it will make the flow path to the room below. And I do need to be a little bit careful here. Let me go ahead and show this. I'm going to show the second level. And I'm going to hide both of the, so now we can actually see here, what do we need to connect to what? And so you can see that this room matched the room below. So everything is okay. Now what I have is a couple things here. I now want to, again, continue this with the floor flow path, but now I want to use the stairs. So I'm going to click, this is going to be a stairs, and this is going to be a stairs. Now I want to use the elevator. So this is the shaft for the elevator. And now I want to add the pipe chase. That's it right there. Okay, we've come to the last flow path that I need to specify, and that is the atrium flow path to the level below. So um, we don't yet have the phantom zones implemented. We will. It's a trivial thing or small thing to do. But for right now, I would like to follow the instructions that are given in the Contam manual when it's talking about atriums or atria. And they recommend using phantom zones, which is really a pretty severe simplification. It just means that there's only one zone temperature pressure. But they do say that if you want to have temperature or contaminant concentrations at different levels, the recommendation um, is to just use a large flow path for that level. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So that's what we're going to do. So the way I'm going to approach it is we already have the elevators and we have the pipe run. So I'm going to use the elevator shaft and I'm just going to multiply it by 10 to give me a flow. I'm not real familiar with the contam solver and I don't want to put in just a huge number because that could potentially lead to some solver issues. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a typical situation for uh, you know any model where you have very constriction numbers, so small flow resistances, and then very high flow resistances, and then very low ones with an atrium. So you want to, I'm just assuming you kind of want to avoid that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the single flow path here, and I'm going to select the existing elevator, but then I'm going to change the multiplier to 10. So this flow path through the atrium to below is going to be 10 times the flow path for the elevator shaft. And that seems like a reasonable approximation. It doesn't seem like too large a number, and yet it should give the kind of desire which is easy flow through the flow path. So I am actually going to change the color of this, and let's just make it something kind of different. Kind of running out of colors here, but okay. I'm going to make it a dark gray. So now we can recognize that as being kind of a special case. Now, the next thing I need to do is I'm going to go and check, make sure I have all of the temperatures set in my stairwells and in my elevator. And so the way I'm going to do that, I'll just click on this, and the temperature is minus 13. So that is not what I wanted to have in this case. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and change it. And the values that I will actually want to use are the same values as used in the ASHRAE uh, model. So the stairwells and the I'm going to put to 8, and the elevator shaft and the pipe run. And then the outdoor is going to be -4, and the default zone temperatures is 73. So let me go ahead and make sure all of those have been done. First, I'm going to do it on the second floor here, second level. So I'm going to put that to 8. And then I'm going to go down to the first level and just make sure I have that done correctly down here. I think I might have made a change since I first described building this model. Okay, and let me just also just check the, uh, yes, I've got ambient at -4, so that's good. And let's go to simulation, and I've got default zone temperature to 73. Okay, so that's all good. Let me just check here. Yeah, these are all 73. So I think everything looks good. Let's go back to the second level. And so to the best of my knowledge, I think we're ready to copy. So what I'm going to do here, I'm only displaying the second level. This time I want to copy all my flow paths and all of my zones, and I want to copy them from level 2 to 30. So I really want to make, I've already done level 1 and 2, so what I want to do is I want to do 28 floors. Let me So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do just a select, and that selects all the zones, and you can see it also selected all of the flow paths. Just to verify things, I want to show you, well, the selection. Let me select it again here. So you can see that I don't select all the flow paths. I'm just selecting, the flow paths are not tied to the levels, but it recognizes if I'm at a level that I want to that I can click and drag and grab just the flow paths on that level. So now let's go ahead and do our standard thing. Copy mode. Like I said, we're going to make this 28 floors or 30 floors total. I'm going to put the Z as 10 feet, and we're going to do a copy move. So now if I go to reset, I'm going to go to show all. Let me just close this here. So I have my building and I have my, everything is there. So I have my model and I think it should be ready to go. So let's be brave. Let's go ahead and click run. We're going to say okay. We now have results. My first inclination is those look correct. We have the correct kind of a winter condition where we have the flow out at the top and flow in at the bottom. And I'll have to compare to a contam model that I make independently to really be comfortable with those results. But there we are. It looks good. I have to do some checking, but I think we have a good start.